Welcome, everybody, to the Goldenlite Talk Series, the Goldenlight Academy Talk Series. I'm really excited about today. It's about to be a dope show. And I really want to focus at the beginning, really talking about this idea of father figures in the Black community, but really in all communities. When I think about outside of my father, who is going to be on Golden Light around Father's Day, I really think about some of the films that raised us, and in particular, I think about Boys in the Hood. And this guy named Furious Styles. And Furious, played by the immaculate Lawrence Fishburne, was the father of Trey Styles, who was played by this guy named Cuba Gooding Jr. in his just breakout role. But I thought about Trey and Furious and their relationship and how what John Singleton was doing was letting us know that fatherhood is essential to Black boys being able to progress and to move forward. And so when we think about today and when we talk with Marshall, I really want to think about this idea. What do we do when a youth is growing up without a father? How do we show up as community leaders? How do we bring in some of the pieces of fatherhood that they might be missing? And to really create this village. Now, the other thing that I've been doing, and I guess I decided I was going to stress myself out all year, but I've been rereading or reading for the first time a lot of the Black canon. And so, classic books by Black authors that have been meaningful and important that I want to reread at this big age. And so I chose Native Son for this week by Richard Wright, who's one of my favorite writers and one of the first writers that I remember reading Black Boy for the first time and just feeling like this is rich, it's powerful. But with Bigger, who's the main character in Native Son, it reminds me of the need for fatherhood. It reminds me of this idea that there are many who grow up without fathers or without father figures. And while Richard Wright is not saying that growing up without a father is a determinant to a child's success, there's some really good things and key things that fatherhood, good fatherhood, actually brings into the picture. So I salute you, Richard Wright, and thank you for Black Boy and Native Son and all of the work that you did to raise writers like Baldwin and Morrison and James B. Golden. And then from, you guys know I'm a hip hop head. And so my favorite group of all time, well, I have a few of them, but this is definitely my favorite group, is Arrested Development. And when I was thinking about the discussion with Marshall today, I thought in particular about this song, Tennessee. Yes, I challenge you to a game of horseshoes, that Tennessee. And when I think about what Arrested Development was saying, they said, walk the roads my forefathers walked, climb the trees my forefathers hung from, ask those trees for all their wisdom, tell me my ears are so young. Go back to from whence we came, my family tree, my family name. For some strange reason, it had to be. He guided me to Tennessee. Now, he's talking about Tennessee being the place where he comes from and needing to return home, needing to get something from the roots of Tennessee, needing to get some family time, and needing to get some fatherhood. And I love the name of this episode is Take Me to Another Place. You know, that's the chorus of Tennessee. Take me to another place, take me to another land, make me forget all that hurts me. Let me understand your plan. And so we understand that the work that we do with children who don't have fathers is sacred work, it's spiritual work, it's God work. It's the work that was talked about in Tennessee. It's the work that Furious Styles did with Trey. And it's definitely the work that Richard Wright wished that Bigger Thompson had in Native Son. And so I'm excited for today. It's going to be a great show. I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off, and then we will bring in Marshall in a second. All right, listen. Marshall is a man on a mission. He's a community builder, a mentor, and a founder of an organization who saw a crucial gap and stepped into it with love, purpose, and action. Marshall Coleman is the founder and CEO of B.O.O.M, Boys of Optimistic Manhood, a mentorship movement based in Palmdale and Lancaster, which is the AV for those of y'all who know LA really well. And it centers boys growing up without fathers or father figures. The mission is clear: help boys identify who they are and how vital their presence is in this world. Through game nights, movie outings, peer support, and intentional mentorship, B.O.O.M is creating the kind of memories that say, there were men in your life who showed up and stayed. Marshall has become that steady, affirming voice for many boys and young men in his community, reminding them that their identity matters, their stories matter, and that they were never meant to walk this world alone. So I'm excited to talk to Brother Marshall. I think you guys are going to get some great information from him as a servant leader in the community. And let's go ahead and welcome in Marshall, who's doing the deep and necessary work of reimagining Black fatherhood one boy at a time, restoring the village with love, structure, and purpose. So, Marshall, welcome in. We're giving you the virtual hand clap for Goldenlite Academy, and we're so happy to have you today and to have this conversation with you because I have a lot of questions. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good day today. I actually got a chance to take a bit of a mental break yesterday. Uh, me and some others went to Disneyland, so it was a nice mental break to get away from everything for a second. It was a group of us, me, my girlfriend, her sisters, and her daughter, and some friends. We went out. It was just a good time to just clear. There's so much on my plate. Sometimes you have to just clear your space, clear your mind.
Oh yeah, we're definitely getting into that today. And I have my green juice. Shout out to Erica Badu. I had to make sure that I'm getting my essential vitamins and minerals.
Yes, yes, sir.
But I want to start by asking you a little bit about, like, who are you? How do you consider yourself as a being and a spirit in this world? What motivates you? What drives you? Who is Marshall?
Oh man, that's an amazing question. Uh, First, I'm just Marshall Coleman, son of Marshall Coleman and Marion Coleman, oldest of four. And I like to look at myself as a vessel that's trying to improve every day. There's flaws every day that I have. Um, Very caring, very empathetic to a lot of different people and what they've gone through. You could be telling me a story and I'm fighting back, tears of my own because I can actually feel what it is that you're saying. So very caring. I've always been like that. My brother used to call me a mutant when we were
I love
younger.
that.
We would go to different churches and the little kids would come and let me hold them or sit next to me, and they wouldn't do it with anybody else. So we were big on X-Men at the time. So my brother would be like, you got to be a mutant, man, because these these children. Shout out to my brother, by the way. Today is his birthday.
Oh, happy
But
birthday, bro.
yes, sir. But it's I'm at the end of the day, man. I'm just a vessel, man, a flawed one at that. I make my mistakes daily, but I have a heart for the community. I love the youth. I see the need for our boys in the community, man.
Wow. I love that you resurrected already this. Have you heard of the term blurred?
No, no, I have
Okay.
not.
So my one of my friends just put me up on game about this last week and said, "Are you a blurred?" And so it's a black nerd,
Okay,
and specifically it was linked to kids who grew up, loving X-Men and
so
Power
yes,
Rangers and Pokemon and
yes.
just all that. And I was like, so I'm probably a blurred. Yeah, I'll take that one. Now I don't know how to code and do all of that, but I can definitely get down with the mutant gifts. And it's interesting because you talked about how they called you this nerd in a very like affirming way. And I feel like, when people think about black men in particular, that's not usually a title that they say. They usually call us a thug or, we're an athlete or a rapper. But it's interesting that we don't get the nerd title too much. For you, I wonder, with those early mutant gifts that you're talking about, uh, how does that inform who you are today?
Um, there's certain things we just saw and we just seen, especially having a father so active in our lives. You know what I'm saying? You don't notice certain things when you're growing up. You realize them when you're older, when you're in your 20s, your 30s, especially when you're running away from your purpose. We used to have boys in the home and we just thought it was somebody else to play with. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't know it was our dad being a father figure for
Wow.
different other youth around the church. We just thought, hey, it's somebody else to play football with. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different outlooks that we had uh, with other teens under other youth. For myself, my first job, man, I was babysitting different boys at the church. And one of the ladies, the first one I was watching, she just wanted a positive male influence around her son. He was 8. I was 14, man. I was 14 at the time. But that was my first real job. So it's when you're that young and you're listening to different problems, and you're talked about because you're different, you're balancing life, you're bound, because at school I was too nice, I was the nice guy, I was really nice or whatever the case is. I wasn't really aggressive and up in people's face. Parents didn't allow me to sag and all that stuff. I wasn't wearing big, at that time, big
Yep.
tees, and what I'm saying, I wasn't wearing that. But my friends were comfortable talking to me, what I'm saying, like just a regular conversation as far as what's going on in the home. Adults would be comfortable talking to me and then realize I'm talking to a kid. But that's just, like you said, gift. That's just something that's natural for me, and I've ran from it for so many years, man. I ran from it because I wanted to do what I wanted to. There's passions that I had, but I've always had a heart for children, though, man. Even when I was a child.
I love that you're able to connect some of your roots and your mutant powers to the need to support young black kids. And I have a very special place in my heart for community members who are nurturing, are young. And I spent 11 years working in the juvenile justice system. And there were so many youth in LA, black and brown, majority, who didn't have what they needed. So as you were talking, it made me think about this black proverb, each one teach one, and this idea
Mm,
that we can't just be on this earth and exist and acquire wealth and status and degrees and businesses, that it's our responsibility just because we're breathing to make sure that we reach back like the Sankofa and we support our kids. And so that's
absolutely.
interesting. So you started there and then you moved into creating this organization called B.O.O.M, which is a dope name. And I'm wondering what sparked this calling for you.
Um, like I said, I was running from for years, but COVID happened. And I'm sitting in my pastor's office, who was a vice principal at the time, and we're going over the different numbers for our youth and the stats during COVID, and we're talking about where their learning is, and for a lot of the underprivileged, especially the our black youth, our black children, uh, across the board, the numbers were down, but ours was the worst. And then we were looking at different numbers as far as some of the boys and girls growing up in a home without a father or father figure, and where their stats were. Um, there's a number of things that happened in my life where it's like, okay, there's a need for a father figure to be around. My daughter's brother, his dad went to prison, so there's a there's a father figure element that I had to step up into there, where it was uh everyone's not mature enough to be in that situation. You understand what I'm saying? Whereas me
Yep.
and her mom were not together. You know what I'm saying? Her brother's her younger brother, but they still had a relationship with my family. What would it be for me to separate my daughter from him, or to have him in a situation to where he's still wondering who he is? I think we use the word, there's something you spoke on before as far as us being here, and just obtaining wealth. We use the word king so much in our community to describe ourselves, but we're not doing anything a king would do. We think king is just in your four walls, and that's not what a king is. A king still serves his community too. There's no way as a black man you can be in this world, in your city, and have no involvement with the youth, knowing our boys and our girls are struggling. There's no way we can be comfortable in a community knowing that, and it's, oh, but we're kings. That's not king. That's not village.
Yeah.
So that,
What are the things that you saw our kids struggling with that you're like, this would be part of my calling to handle? This I'm in a capacity in a space where I can actually support this. This is what they're going through.
as far as school is comprehension, because even my daughter for a while was struggling with comprehension. You know what I'm saying? If you can comprehend, you can, there's a lot of other things you can do, even with math. If you're understanding what it is you're reading, you know what I'm saying, that you can solve that problem. Among our boys, it's handling rejection, communication. They're on this so much, man. The phone. They're on their phone so much, so they know how to talk over the phone, but they don't know how to talk to someone in person, to hold a conversation. They get so overly emotional now, where it's such, it's something that back, in 90s, 2000s, whatever, we just had a conversation about it. We could argue over something and next next minute be laughing.
Yeah.
And I think our children personalize so many things, where it's just, sometimes it's just a conversation. It could be something down to just who we think the best rapper is, and it can be a fight off of that,
Oh,
where
I
it's just
know.
a discussion. It's just a discussion.
I also know who it's not. And so people can be mad at me all day, but you already know over here, I feel like I barely let Drake in the door in the first place, but I'm gonna leave that there. And I love that there's a couple things that you talked about. I was taking notes while you were talking. Comprehension, and in particular, literacy is extremely important to the freedom of Black people. And so it's very toxic and troubling to hear um, Ye West recently say that we don't need to read anymore. It's ironic that he is suffering and struggling the way that he is while making these kinds of statements. Because sometimes I think, well, if you picked up a book, if you respected some of these thinkers and writers, you might not be in the space that you're in right now, including your own mother. And so I do wonder, you know, it's going to be important for people to help Black kids learn to read and write.
Yes.
A hundred plus years ago, we were killed for trying to learn how to read. And so that'll, tell you the power of that. But then you also talked about, in particular with Black boys, handling rejection and having high levels of emotions. Now, I've seen that historically in the Black community. I grew
Yes.
up in a very Black household. I had, aunts and uncles who were very loud and who were very expressive
Yes.
and had a lot of emotions going on.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering for you, why are our kids so emotional from your perspective? Where is that coming from? Where is the having a difficulty with rejection? Like, where does this stuff root?
Um, I'm there's a number of things that can stem from that. Um, I'm gonna try to give answers to where I'm not stepping on any toes. Uh, I
We
think
step
with
on toes on this
okay,
learning lab.
okay. So
They can
I'll be
cancel
honest
me.
with I'll be honest with certain things that I've seen and even talked with some of the men around me that said this as well. Uh, as a boy growing up and you don't have men around, you often act or react to certain things from an example you've seen. So if you react to things like mom used to do or whatever, or your sisters used to do, um, for the most part, women are emotional thinkers and men are logical thinkers. So if you're acting a certain way, whatever, or over emotional, and it's something you've seen from mom do, you're gonna bring that out with you, to the world or in relationships where it's like there's certain ways. There's no possible way a man should think to raise your fist to hit a woman ever. But when you don't know how to channel or understand your emotions, you're gonna do those type of things. As far as rejection, you know how that thing is, or whatever. Where you around your boys and you hollering at a girl, and she decline or she no, and your friends laughing. 1 minute you interested, the next thing she a B word. There's a problem with that to me.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? These
Yeah.
are women, but that's a problem for me to see that. So
Yeah, some of it is, I think, the things that we tell you, when we do tell them that men are less emotional than women, that does set them up to be more aggressive and to have a hard time with rejection. I think, part of what we want to do as leaders is to show the humanity in both men and women,
yes.
and to be able to say, well, these are both full people. Like, there's no like leaning to one side. Ultimately, we all are having this experience, and you know it's really about being able to let these kids know that it is okay to have emotions, but to express it in a way that's healthy. So, like, you don't
Yeah.
need to not cry, which is
Yes.
something that Black boys have been told for a long
Yes.
time, because people
Yes.
said, well, the boys are more logical. Like, you're not supposed to be crying. You're supposed to be figuring things out. Then you end up with boys who have a whole bunch of repressed emotions, and they end up exploding later on in life. And that could look like domestic violence. It could look like beating your kids. It can look like cussing people out. And I would like to see us be able to help young Black boys in particular to figure out what are some safe ways to express our emotions. We're going to talk about Jay-Z a little bit later, but I appreciate that you were able to dig into that. Now, in order for you to do this work, it requires being a leader. And at Golden Light, that's mostly what we work with, are people who are trying to lead the community, people who are servants like Mandela, Malcolm X, Mother Teresa, Obama, people who are dedicated in their leadership to helping the community. And so I'm wondering, for you, what kind of leader do you see yourself becoming?
Man, that's a heavy question. Because I don't even look at it as far as just being a leader, being an example. You know what I'm saying? But it's also with being a leader, you know you learn your position, because I'm not always leading the charge. Sometimes I'm serving too. With what I do, everything isn't always me up front and me heading it. If there's something that somebody else is stronger in doing, I definitely do not have a problem with, hey, you know what, you got this one. With some of the projects I'm working on now, there's some men I have reached out to, like, hey, you may be able to reach a bigger crowd with doing this. I may need your help with that. So as far as being a leader is concerned, uh, for me, understanding where my strengths are versus where somebody else may be better in this position than I am, you know what I'm saying? And just understanding that, uh, whatever the goal is, for me, the goal, if this is the goal and I can't get someone the full way, but this person can, I want to be behind that person, getting them there. To me, that is leading. And that's also showing the community, hey, you can't do everything. You may not be able to do everything. Get behind someone that can, though. I don't always have to be the face. It doesn't always have to be me. I don't mind me not being the face. What is our goal? What are we getting to? And then our children need to see that, especially from men. I feel like our children see that from women all the time. They've been carrying the community for so long on their shoulders. More of us, more of us have to step up, and it can't just be small numbers all the time. We need more. We need more men involved.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so I love that you're wrestling with the question because it is something that I want leaders around the world to start to ask themselves. A lot of people think that being a leader means you are the front facing person. You know,
Yes,
you're Steve Jobs and there's Apple, the Apple logo, and there's Steve Jobs, and everybody knows those two people. But that's not necessarily leadership. That's one type of leadership. And there's a whole bunch of different types. You know, when I think about some of the best leaders, like you said, these are people who are behind the scenes. These are people who are motivating their staff, who are, you know, paying for their employees to go to college silently without telling the world that. You know,
that
these are
that
people who
part.
are giving their employees a little bit of extra vacation time per year because they don't want them burned out. So there's all kinds of different ways to see yourself as a leader. Well, we do servant leadership here, and it's really about people first. It's about pouring into your people the same way that you pour into the community. So if I have a nonprofit, I'm not just taking care of the kids that are out there, but I'm
Yeah.
also taking care of my team in the same way.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
I can't sit up here and preach something that I'm not willing to do at home.
You know, too, Dr. Golden, part of leadership is you have to take the accountability first. You have to take the blame. In front of the public eye, someone could do something wrong. Guess who needs to take the fault?
Yep.
That was on me. That was my bad. I should have supervised so and so, or I have to do better. Behind closed doors, you may handle the situation different. Even a husband, you never want to be in a situation to where your wife, even if she did something wrong, you don't want to. You two are a team while you're out. We are a team when we're out. Certain things behind closed door. Hey, babe, you shouldn't have said it like that, or maybe you shouldn't have done that. But you don't leave her where she's by herself. I look at that as far as everything. When you're a leader, you take the, it's on me. You take the blame. Your team. Hey, it's me. I could have done this differently. You can discuss with the team later, hey guys, we got to do this better, or hey, you got to be on time for this or whatever. But in the I, hey, that's me. It's my fault. A lot of people don't want, they want the fame and the glory with leadership. They don't want the rough stuff that comes with it too. A
Leadership
lot of
is
people like,
hard.
do this, but they don't, that's not real leadership.
Leadership is very difficult. And I write
Yes.
about this every Monday on LinkedIn. I write something about leadership in my newsletter. And I find myself saying almost the same statement every week. Leadership is not pretty. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It is very difficult. It's very painful. It's
Yeah.
selfless. It causes you to be a better person ultimately, But yeah, you can be recognized for being the face of a company, but it's the things that people don't see that are painful. It's, having to let go of an employee who is really toxic for the community or your environment. It's having to lay off people that you love when you don't have the funds to keep them. It's working twice as hard as everybody on your team and nobody ever telling you thank you.
Hmm.
That's a real leader.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
Right. Absolutely. It's the hurt behind it. Like I said, the dirty work. A lot of it is stuff, the big leadership stuff. It's not even stuff that you talk about and do. There's so many different things, that I've gotten pictures of, but some of the work I've done, nobody even knows. I don't talk about it. And being a leader, like I said, it's not about fame or hey, I did this. The reason why I wrestled with the question so much is because I don't like to put myself out. Yeah, I'm a leader because so on and so forth. Your works, somebody else will say it. Someone else will say, hey, that's a really good leader over there. That's a king right there. That's a this. Someone else will tell you. Your fruits will show. That's how I
Yeah.
look at it. That's why I wrestle with that question so much, is because I don't like why I'm a leader because so on and so forth. I can just kind of give a picture of what I feel like a leader is and is supposed to be.
I think you're absolutely right. And, we just focus on teaching people how to be leaders here. And that's one of the things that I think really good leaders struggle with is um, I don't want to be seen as this like pretentious person that's out here. And you're right, your works, well, there's a gospel song that says, let my works speak for me. Like
Absolutely.
that's real. That's not
Absolutely.
something that it doesn't. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to hide in the corner or, I can't be out in the front and be proud to be able to represent and say, "Yeah, I built this. I did this." There's a time, and it's important for the kids to also see you say that, to say, "Yes, I
Absolutely.
dreamed this up and I built this organization from the ground up." They also need to hear that, so they
Yeah.
know, okay, I can do that.
Right.
That's something that's possible for me, and it's something that I look forward to doing. And as you're talking, something kind of dawned on me about leadership styles. And
Yes.
I had written before our conversation, I had written down Mufasa, who I generally take things back to the Lion King because I grew up on that, and
Okay.
I watched that movie every night before I went to sleep when I was 7
Okay.
years old.
Okay.
And it's this idea that if we parallel fatherhood with leadership, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
similarities
Mm-hmm.
in what a real leader is and what a real father is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about, I don't want to be out in the front, I see a lot of fathers who are like, I'm going to make sure that I push my kid out there. I see that with Beyonce right now, where she's like, I'm trying to lift up Blue because she may actually be better than me. And I want to make sure that as a mother, I'm able to use my nepotism to lift her up a little bit and to get her career started. But deeper than that, it's the love that fathers have for their kids that I would like to see more leaders have for the community.
Absolutely. I'll say something about that too. I think our problem that we have is we see leadership as just this way. And there's a number of ways of leadership, just like there's a number of ways of being a father. You have your strict father and you have one that's more lax. Both of them are needed. Both of them are needed. There's not one way to lead. There's not one way to be a father. There's not one way to be in the community. You have your, sometimes you do need your face. You need your person in the background too that's pushing this, and and so on and so forth. um I don't want us to always just paint a picture of leadership as this. I like the example you used too, as far as the father thing and Mufasa is concerned, because you have your, I like using it as far as TV shows. You have your Carl Winslow, you have your Philip Banks, you have What's the shows I
Cliff
used to watch?
Huxtable.
Cliff Huxtable. You know what I'm saying? So it was always times where it's like this is needed, where someone here may have been a little bit more strict, where this one may have been a little bit more lax. This one led with love a little bit more this way. This one may have led with love with this way. You know what I'm saying? Which is another thing is which a little off topic. Who you choose to marry is very important. But it's as far as a role of a father is concerned, uh as long as there's structure, which I think is needed in leadership as well. Structure, keeping your word. These children hold on to our word, man, and then showing up. The children I have right now, I work in the ACES program, and they're looking for you. They may test you at first to see who you are, what you are, but after a while, they're building a relationship and they just want you to show up. That's important to children. I think leadership with adults is a little bit different than children. There's sometimes I feel like with children is a little bit more authentic as far as how they look at you, what they see. Are you true to your word? Are you going to show up even though I know I gave you this problem? Are you going to give up on me? You know, those type of things. And I've made mistakes with it. I haven't always shown up like I need to when I started off. Uh there's some things I need to bring back to where the reason why funding is so important. But there's some mistakes that I've made that I need to go back and make sure, hey, I want to go cover this. But it is being a leader is like it goes back to like you said, there's so much more to it than just being in charge or
Yeah.
in front.
I love that, and I would argue that it's not different with adults than children. You know, adults need the same things that children need. Everything that you just said that fathers give their kids, adults need that in the community. They need transparency, they need honesty, they need you to show up for them. And I think that that's an aha moment for me is when we start to think about being good leaders, think about, Carl Winslow, think about Cliff Huxtable, before we understood what Bill Cosby was doing. Like to really think about what these mean. The other quality that you're talking about, because all of these men are very different as fathers,
Yes.
but what makes a leader a real one is two principles. One is their ability to be vulnerable, going back to emotions, to be able to be honest and to not sit up here and play in people's faces and act like this dictator. If you're anxious, say you're anxious. If you're sad that you're employed, say you're sad. If you're having a hard time with the fires, talk about that. But the other side is called authenticity. And what I see a lot of leaders try to do is be like somebody else. And
Mm,
that's why they don't get respected, because you're
mm-hmm,
not being yourself. And
mm-hmm.
so I used to tell my team all the time, there's only going to be one James B. Golden in your entire life. So just accept that. You are not going to find me in your next bosses. You might find similarities, but you're not going to get this package. And that's why it feels so good, because you're talking to a real person who's
Absolutely.
being authentic. So if I could leave that part with you, I would just say be as authentic as possible. I am a leader who built a college, and I will show up in some Chucks or Jordans on a national stage
Uh-huh.
with no problems. I'm
Uh-huh.
not performing for people. I'm going to be who I am when I show up. And yeah, it may irritate some, it may piss some people off, but ultimately, you're seeing a real one, and that's what you're going to respect.
I commend the vulnerable part. I think that part is so hard, especially when you brought up the crying before when people say that's a weakness or boys aren't supposed to. With vulnerability, with authenticity, with being transparent, those emotions are there. And I know for me, I love what you said about being authentic. You're going to get Marshall Coleman no matter what. The struggle of being vulnerable at times, where it is that may be the one thing that's capturing someone though, is your vulnerability. I know for me it's a little bit easier for me to do that with children, because children will really see you, uh
Yeah.
versus kind of with adults, because a lot of times the children that haven't used vulnerability against me. adults have. You know what I'm saying? Where, where you're relating with children and they won't fire that back at you, where adults will fire back, or, will bring it up to you again. But it's still something that is a powerful and strong component as far as leading is concerned, especially for a man. So I'm glad you spoke on those two things.
Yeah, black male vulnerability is, and it's a thing. It's
Yes.
something that is very difficult, and you don't even have to be a leader to have a hard time being vulnerable as a black male
Absolutely.
adult. And a lot of times it's been about safety historically for us. In different settings, when we've been vulnerable, we have been attacked, or we have been labeled, or people take advantage of us. But we're still human beings, and
Yeah.
so ultimately we can't just say we're not going to be vulnerable, we're not going to share our emotions because we're scared. It's like that's why it's such a rich and fulfilling experience. I don't have a problem crying in front of my team. I don't have a problem letting them know, you know what, I'm anxious, I don't really know what to do here. But I wasn't always like that. I had
Yeah.
to learn how to allow myself to have that permission. And what I found is that it created more good than harm for me. It really allowed people to connect with me. And it's interesting, we're now talking about the mental and emotional weight of doing this kind of work, of working in the community as black men. Jay-Z had a song back in the day called Song Cry.
Hmm.
And I remember when it came out, I was like, this is interesting. I think I wrote about it. And, it was, I can't see them coming down my eyes. So I got to make this song cry. And then he has Jaguar Wright come in and sing, and um, just kind of sing the pain. And Bell Hooks, who's one of my favorite writers, she talked about the wounded heart, especially for people who serve the community.
Hmm.
And she said the wounded heart learns self love by first overcoming low self esteem. So when I think about our emotional weight, what we have to go to bed with at night after we've dealt with some of these ignorant systems, or some of the issues in the community that are really difficult, how do you take care of yourself?
Man, I there's a number of things that I'd like to get back to doing, and then there's a number of things that I do. For me, a long drive playing a new album helps me a lot. Just get away. So whenever a new album comes out, my favorite drive is to Vegas. It's a 3 hour
Really?
drive, 3 hours and 15 minutes, whether it's solo or with someone or whatever. But I know during COVID, I went quite a bit when things were stressing me, and a little bit before as well. I would make my money doing Uber and Lyft, and if I needed to just get away for a second, that drive to Vegas, there's something I always did. I played whatever new album was out. Um, I would play an old album I haven't visited in a while, and then I play it, and I'm there. So 3 hours is a breeze. Coming back home, it's the same thing. Play a new album that may be out, old, whatever the case is. Praise songs that I grew up on. I love playing those because it reminds me of me and my brothers when we were young, going to church.
Give us
Uh,
a couple praise songs real quick so we can get our
um,
spirit on.
let's see. The Lord is high above the heavens. I love that.
Okay,
Uh, um, anything Hezekiah Walker. I will bless the Lord. It's I will bless the
that's the
Lord
jam.
at all, like that. Shout outs to Pastor Doris had us singing that song. What else? What else? Even songs my mom made up off of scriptures, man. Oh, clap your hands, all you people. Oh, clap your hands, all you people. Like taking me back to when I was a child, that calm, growing up with so much around you that you don't understand is around you, but my parents kept everything calm. Um, Meditating sometimes, man. I journal. I just journaled this morning. Whatever my thoughts are, man, just whatever stresses is going on, I write them down, and it actually helps me release those things. Pedicures, bro. Fellas, go sit in a chair, man. Go sit in a chair. Let someone get your feet massaged real quick. Get them toenails clipped, man. I'm telling you, just something. What I'd like to get back to is massages. I
Yeah.
used to get a massage every other month, man. And it's relaxing. Just let the music play and just relax. And I'm glad you're bringing something like that as far as self care, because we men don't talk about what we're going through a lot. We don't talk about our stresses. We hold everything in. You see, women, it's so easy for them to, you see it on social media, everything, them talking about theirs. Men, we don't talk about, we hold so much in, because back to communication, we're not taught we can, or how to, or whatever the case is. We're not around the fellas enough to really have that real conversation. But the self-care is so important, man. Bro, you see all this hair I got on me. I like just sitting back and just get my hair washed, man. That's relaxing in itself. Get my
I
retwist and just
remember the lock ministry. Believe me, I had locks for a long time, and I loved it. And there's nothing like getting your head
it's
scratched
not.
and
It's not.
greased and retwisted. And so it is important,
Yes,
because the
absolutely.
same way that we say tap into being vulnerable, the reason
Yes.
people don't do it is because it's really hard. And
Yes.
then you have to go to the beach, and you have to exercise, and you have to eat right and
Yeah.
drink green juice so that you're okay. But that's how we will make
Yeah.
it through. And
Yeah.
one of the things that's hard for us, I think, as community centered leaders, is dealing with some of the systemic inequities in funding. And you alluded to this a little earlier, but there's a lot of politics in nonprofit work, and there's not a scarcity of resources, but there's a huge fight a lot of times for resources between some of these bigger nonprofits, or these bigger companies that have these armies of grant writers and people who can, secure all this funding. And sometimes the little guys get left behind. That causes a lot of stress on leaders. And I
Yeah.
wonder, have you experienced any of that?
So I'm coming up on year three, July 28th. That'll be 3 years of my nonprofit moving. And I didn't know how much politics was into the nonprofit world until I was in the nonprofit world. And it's frustrating. There's a lot of gatekeeping. I'll be honest with you with that. Being in the Antelope Valley, we're at the tip of the Los Angeles County, so we're often forgotten about. But the resources that are available, the bigger nonprofits are getting the money, and they're not really doing the work. Now they'll get our nonprofits, they'll get our ideas, they'll bring some of us in to ask us what's going on, but they'll get our ideals, they'll tell people, or they'll tell their funders, hey, we're going to bring them in to do this, and then not bring us in to do that. Then you have some nonprofits, there's not one single African American on their staff, or they maybe have one. They'll go for these grants, get the grants, and the funding still won't go to that audience. And then you have the nonprofits, like you said, the little guys. I'm still there, I'm still working. We hit the ground running, we're doing what we can, we're using our own. Last year I used more of my money than I got anything from grants,
Yeah.
just to put different resources together, just to put resource pop-ups, whatever the case is. And the bigger nonprofits are, they'll give us different mini grants and stuff, whatever. But like I said, most of that funding that can actually be for work isn't going to the work. It's just do events. We need programs. It can't just be a one-off. We need continuous programs. Our youth need to see us every week.
Yep.
I have people right now, hey, when's the next game night? When's the next this? I would like to have something going until that next game night. Let's give them something before the next one. Let's give them some incentives for that. So, but it's really bad out here, where it's a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of people that say there's no funding, but there is. And there's nonprofits that
There's a
say they
lot of
don't have
funding.
it, and it's, but they don't tell you. They won't let you know that.
And so, they call me the bad boy of healthcare for a reason. And so I'm always opening the gates and leaving them open. And so They have a hard time with me, but they can't get rid of me now because it's too
Yeah.
late. I went too
Amen.
far. And so for people that would like to help you and would like to fund, and this is a shout out now to all of my people on LinkedIn, all of y'all who have enjoyed the work that you guys get from Golden Global. Let's help this young guy out. Let's help this organization out. How can people donate to you?
So I would love you guys to get in contact with me. Email, phone number. I can give you guys a place to send a check to. Love that. Send some Zelle. 661-675-9233 is a phone number you'll get directly to me. Founder of boom at gmail.com. There is a spot where you can go to my websites, www.boom.us.org. There's a place you can donate there. Like I said, direct contact. That way I can write, look, I do have my EIN. That way at the end of the year, you will get your thank you and you can take it to your tax provider. So it is legit. So any of those ways, like I said, I love to personally thank people that do donate as well, because that means a lot to me. That means you see the need and you see the vision. Those are my ways. And then in Instagram, I know you're going to have those posted, but my Instagram, reaching out to me there, you could see some of the work that we're doing there, letting me know, hey, I'd like to donate this or donate that. That's perfect. Love it. I appreciate all of
Right.
those things.
Yeah, it's our responsibility when you've been given platforms and positions to lift up the rest of the people coming behind us. It's these same ideas cycling, not just from working with youth, but working as leaders in the community. I don't usually quote Nas anymore because of the stuff that he was doing with Khalees, but I love Nas. I was raised on him, and he had a song called "I Can."
Yes.
Back
Hmm.
in the day, I know I
Hmm.
can be
Be what
what
I
I
want.
want to be
Be what I
if I
want to
work
be.
hard at it. And in our spaces, a lot of times it's easier to say that than the reality is. It can be really difficult for us. There's a lot of barriers. Um, and I want to ask you a couple quick snapshot kind of questions.
Okay.
This is just off the dome. They're
Okay.
kind of fun, but what's a song that defines your leadership and your work in the community?
Oh, golly. That is a heavy one. Man, that is a heavy one. That defines my leadership in the community.
Yeah, just off the dome. I know you weren't prepared for these.
No. You know what's so bad about it? I have the first one that comes to mind. I'm a Jay-Z fan, but it's a hustler song, but it's for me, it's like a go get it. You don't know. And
Okay.
the song is being told you don't know what you're doing, and he's defying these odds in this. I'm a hustler, but I could sell water to a whale. It does not matter what you tell me I cannot do. I'm gonna go do it for my youth. I'm gonna do anything to fight for my youth. You know what I'm saying? So it's like no matter what the odds are, I'm going to go do it. So that one that comes to mind right now as far as that one. That's so terrible. I hope my mom probably gonna shake her head, but that,
No,
I'm
that's great. Jay-Z's had a rough year this year, so I'm sure we've lifted him up a couple times in this episode. And um, the greatest lesson you've learned from your dad.
oh man, that's another amazing one. Um, your presence, man, leading by example, leading by example, your presence. I often ask people what's your fondest memory of your father. For me, it was my dad. There's two things. My dad took us to the movies. Every Disney movie that came out, Lion King, Rescuers, Great Mouse Detective, all those. My mom would come too sometimes, but it was always my dad that took us. The reason why I say that is because even now I have a love for movies. That's another self-care, love for movies. My dad is the reason why. And then football, throwing the football out. But his example, man, the father he was, and how involved he was with us. There's no lesson like that, bro. There's no lesson
Wow,
like that. So
a
that
living
I
lesson.
man, There's no lesson like that, bro. There used to be men at the church mad at my dad because of the standard he set when we were little in San Diego. He always had us around, bro. He came and sat with us. We sit with him playing the drums, different things like that, man. There's nothing like involvement, man.
Yeah, my dad's been a deacon for a million years, probably since I was born, and he is beloved in the Monterey Salinas area in Santa Cruz, where he goes to church now. But I remember this one moment where one of the other deacons said in front of me to my dad, if I had a son, I would want him to be raised the way that you're raising
Wow.
James. I have
Wow.
never forgotten that. I must have been maybe 7 or 8 years old. But you talk about powerful men. I mean,
Yes.
oh man. And here's my last thing, because I know we got to wrap up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you pray or hope for each boy who comes through your program?
Understanding one, and then that I make a positive impact on their lives, that I change their trajectory. As far as just sowing a seed, I pray everyone's seed doesn't grow right away. For some people, it takes time. It may take 5 years, but I just pray that a seed I'm planting, whenever they're faced with a situation, they remember what was said. Um, that they see that there are men that care, that there is an example, and that it's okay to love and to care. You don't have to be cold. You don't have to be cold hearted to be empathetic. Those type of things, man. I really pray our boys are that
Wow.
it's already a cold world, man. It's already a tough world. That doesn't mean you have to be cold too.
Mm,
So I just pray for that for our boys, man, where it's like to be the change too. The, you don't have to continue that path. It can that cycle that you're going through, whatever. You can break that cycle. And
wow.
then just one last thing too. Our boys, I want them to grow up to be men that understand our women are important. Our women are important, man. So just those things.
Marshall, thank you so much for joining us today. And blessings to you, blessings to Boom. And hopefully you'll come back and visit us soon and give us some updates.
Anytime you need me to be on, I'm hoping even off camera we continue our relationship as we're building, talking.
Absolutely. I would
I
love that.
commend you for what you're doing as well. I
Thank
really do.
you.
I commend you. It's inspiring for me too. So I appreciate you as well.
Thank you. All right. So that was Marshall. And I just want to leave you guys with a couple of things. I thought this was a really powerful, powerful episode. And I had some ahas. I was in here writing stuff down about fatherhood and the parallels with leadership and taking care of ourselves as Black men and really becoming more emotionally attuned and aware and helping each other out and connecting to everything that's happened to us in our lives, allowing that to fuel us the way Marshall has been able to fuel his company. And so I want to remind you guys, support grassroots visionaries. Don't just admire them, support them with finances and with opportunities. And remember to follow Marshall on Instagram, on Facebook. Go to the Boom website. If you need any of the links, hit me up on LinkedIn or YouTube and I'll send them to you. But until next week, be wise, be careful, sit down and be humble, and most importantly, be healed. Blessings to you all. May God bless you on your journey.